Welcome, Dr. Paul Swan. It's great to have you here today, and we're going to be talking about dice.
Heather, people often, I guess, dismiss dice a little bit about how they can be useful. Because I'm speaking across several countries at this point here, in Australia we allow people to say dice meaning the singular, but I can use the word die and dice as well, but it doesn't really matter. We're just going to roll some stuff. I often call them random hexahedral random number generators, which basically means dice. All right, so
That's a mouthful.
yeah, it sure is. Particularly in countries where perhaps gambling is a bit of a no-no. So basically, it's about generating random numbers. So I thought we'd just share a couple of ideas with you and follow it through. And essentially, look, we're going to talk about just some different dice. I have some that are on my set here. I've got the really massive one that kids like a lot. You can see how big it is, bounces around. We won't use that one today, but if I was working in a classroom, that'd be one I'd want to use and so forth. But we're just going to use some pretty basic stuff. We're not even going to use some of these unusual ones. Today we're just going to focus on the 6 and the 10 face dice and so forth. So just to get us rolling, I'll give a little bit of background, and then I thought we'd play a couple of games that I'd link to bits that maybe parents can play at home or teachers could play in a classroom. So, and a couple of the games you and I would play against one another so we can sort of see how it goes. So just to sort of put us in the picture here, we're mostly just going to use those 10-sided. And when I say 10-sided, they're numbered from 0 to 9, so they're producing the digits that we use in our number system. The 6-sided, and look, I talk a little bit about pocket dice because they're sort of a universal sort of thing there. Okay, so there's, as I said, you can get all sorts. You can get 4-sided, you can get 8-sided, you can get 12-sided, 20-sided even if you wanted to. Probably the most useful set for if you're in a classroom would be the ones that have got the 6 and the 10s in it. And having a little box like the one I've just illustrated there just helps, get your things in and out. And we've chosen different coloured dice because that means you can refer to different colours and so forth. All right, so that's one thing I just wanted to get across. The second is, look, if you're at home and you don't have access to dice, then you could use a paper clip and a spinner. All you're doing is generating the numbers from 1 to 6 or 0 to 9. So anything that we do today, if you don't have dice, then feel free to do that. So I just didn't want people to be precluded. Essentially anything you can do with a dice, you can do with a spinner and vice versa quite often. So that's just to give us that bit of background that happens here. So there's one other thing just before we get started. I just wanted to talk about the fact that, say, sometimes you might want to make your own dice, so to speak. Now, you can get pocket dice, and essentially pocket dice, you just slide pieces in, as you can sort of see in the picture there. We've got shapes and various bits and pieces. Now, I appreciate that people may not have a pocket dice either, so I've made a little video which is called Making Your Own Pocket Dice, and you can find that on YouTube. And essentially, we'll probably, I don't know if you still have milk cartons where you are, but essentially, you can make your own with just a milk carton. And in about a minute and a half, I've explained on this YouTube video how to cut that down. And then you can whiz on our website, grab some of the templates and make your own dice. So that just gives makes it a bit more universal there. In that case here, I've got the extra creamy milk, but you can use almond milk if you wanted to. It's just the carton that matters there and so forth. So basically, if you want to get some little inserts, a bit like I showed there, then we have some of them, not all of them, sitting up in this little sampler and inserts. Now those, if you make your own with the milk carton, just reduce photocopy a bit and then they can just glue on. We've made them to fit the standard pocket dice that you can get. That would be there. So at this point here, I thought we'd launch into some bits and pieces. I'll describe one game and then you and I are going to play some games and so forth. This one I actually designed, I should give a little bit of background here. I have two of my grandchildren. One is in year 1 here, so she's about 6, and the other one's 4. I actually have a third one, but she's only just learning to walk, so she hasn't reached school yet. Okay, and so the game I'm about to describe is designed for, in Australia, would be about a year 1, but the notion is what I like about dice is that often it's the dice making you do things. You're not that teacher, not that grumpy teacher. That's that dice made me do these sort of things. So the dice can become the bit of the focal point. So I'll explain this game pretty simply, and you can either make it with the milk carton or however it might work there to start with. So essentially, you get your children in a circle. Now, Heather, I don't sing the circle song, but most teachers will know there's a song that you sing to get your children in a circle. All right, so I'm not going to, poor listeners, I don't want to hear me sing. And essentially, we would grab a beanbag, we'd have the children in a circle, and you might have, as you can probably see there, the word clockwise just slid into the pocket dice, or you put it on your milk carton dice and so forth. Now, if I wanted to focus on the word clockwise, I'd probably put it on 5 faces. So the nice part is there's 6 faces on the dice, but you could have 5 of them with the word clockwise, so that comes up a lot in that one there, and maybe 1 anti-clockwise, that would be there. So essentially, this is a bit like different countries, different places have different names, but a bit like duck, duck, goose, or hot potato, or something like that. I'll explain how this works. So I'll take you back to the picture. So you have a child. We know that the beanbag is going to pass around the circle in a clockwise direction, and the numbers that you might throw on your pocket dice might be it's going to go 5, 10, whatever numbers you decide. Could be teen numbers, could be any sort of numbers you put in the other pocket dice. And essentially that beanbag gets passed around in a clockwise direction, a certain number of places, and the children have to count. Now, the really interesting part is if the beanbag lands on you, then what you need to do is drop the beanbag and run around the circle in a clockwise direction and come. Yes, this action, getting kids up and out and out into the playground or maybe in a big group there. So just bear in mind that essentially dice can be used to trigger some actions. It's not just always about number things. And so today we'll talk about some number things. We'll talk about some probability, but I just like the fact that you can be pretty flexible with your use of dice and so on. Now you can imagine when it comes back, that child's run around the circle, then they pick up the beanbag, we roll again and it goes around. It's amazing how often it comes up clockwise, but that's what I'm sort of focusing on. I've got to tell you one story though. I'm doing this, and of course there's a child there with basically crutches, and who does it land on but the child with crutches? But anyway, it was a good spirit. Someone else ran around the circle. It was very nice. It showed a bit of caring. So let's move into another game here, and this is where we'll start to sort of build that sort of thinking and so forth. Okay, so I call this one Mary's game. Just happens that, well, I have 2 stories to this. One is the real story is that the girl in the class where we made this up was called Mary. That's the real story. But my mother-in-law's name was also Mary, so depending on how I wanted to spin that story a little. Now, that's Heather, can you see there's some numbers there, 0 to 12? Okay, so all you need to do is write at your end, 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 12. So I'm going to write it on my board here. You'll see exactly what we're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to go to this point here. I'll just clear the dice off here. And all you have to do is literally write, and I'll use my little whiteboard for this case here. So I'm going to write 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and basically keep on going up till you get to 12. Okay, so that's all you need to do to set this game up. It's pretty easy. All right, so I'm just going to finish writing it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now you should have the same sitting there. Okay.
I do indeed.
So we've got that idea that's happening. Okay. So the next bit that sits in here is we're going to roll the 2 dice, and we get to make some decisions. Now I'm going to roll for both of us at the moment. I normally use 2 different coloured dice. Just makes it a little bit easier. In that one there, you may not be able to see that white, so I'll just grab the red dice to make that one a little bit easier. Now when I roll those numbers, I have a choice at this point here. And the choice is that I can either add the 2 numbers that are showing or find the difference. In other words, do a subtraction between the 2 numbers. So let me give you an example. So I might roll here, and I rolled a 6 and a 5. So if this was your turn, Heather, you have a choice. You can say 6 and 5 is 11 and cross off the 11 from yours. Or before you make that choice, you could also say the difference, or the subtraction. If I subtract 5 from 6, I'm left with 1. So you can either cross out, so just make sure that's clear for you. You can either cross out the 1, because 6 take 5 is 1, or you can cross out the 11. So you need to make your choice now. And once you've made your choice, you can't change, all right? So
I'm going to add them together.
Okay, so you've got 11.
Do the 11 for the first one.
Yeah, so you cross out 11. So now it's my turn, and I'll bring it up so you can see. Okay, it turns out that I've rolled a 6 and a 4. Okay, so once again, I have a choice. I can say 6 and 4 is 10, or I could say 6 take 4 is 2. I have one of those two choices. Now, I'm going to be a bit like you, so I'm going to cross out the 10. All right, now I'll give you another turn, and I think people will get how we're playing this game here. So I'm rolling again. Now, you could roll at your end, but I'm going to roll at my end. So we've got a 6 and a 3 here. So once again, you've got a choice. Is it 6 and 3 is 9, or 6 take 3 is 3? You can make your choice about where you want to cross off.
No, I'm going to do 9. The only reason is I think whenever I play dice games and I play Monopoly or any of those games with my son, I always get a lot of low numbers. So I'm going to do the high numbers first. This is how I'm going to my strategy here. So I'm going to take off 9.
Okay, so in this case, you can see how the game goes forward and back and forward and back and so forth. Now, there's two ways that you can play this game. And one is we can keep rolling until one of us has crossed all the numbers off. That does take quite a while because, as you imagine, you might be waiting for the last number to come up. The other way is to say that we're going to have, say, 6 or 7 rolls each, and whoever's crossed the most off after the 7 rolls each is the winner. So that's one. Now, I often play that game quite a bit just to get a bit of a feeling for it. And after a while, people get some sort of intuitive ideas of maybe this is a better choice than this one. Now, we're not going to look today at the probability or the chance. I'm just doing it for practicing addition and subtraction. But if later on people want to explore that, there's a lot of interesting mathematics. But I'd like to pick two things up from this game in particular. Okay, one is children learn very quickly. Okay, so I've got in this case a double 6. Children learn very quickly that, okay, double 6 is 12. But actually, as a difference or subtraction, 6 take 6 is 0. Okay, so, and in fact, any double. So if that happened to be 4 and 4, could also give me 0. Anytime a double comes up, I can get 0. So I can make a choice. But if you think about it, 6 and 6 is only going to come up once. Right? So if I had 6 and 6, the good choice initially is to choose the 12. Here's the other piece of that might be useful to people. So if I've got two numbers that are 1 apart, say a 4 and a 3. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so if I had a 4 and then I had a 3, so the numbers are 1 apart, the difference is always 1. So when they're just like that, once again, I can get 1 very easily. And children learn very quickly in playing this game, doubles as a subtraction is always 0. And these things, the 4 and 3 is like a near double, will always give me 1 as the subtraction. So a really simple game like that, you can be up and playing with 2 dice. I often use 2 different colours just to distinguish a bit. You write the numbers 0 to 12 down, and away you are, you're ready to go. So that's a simple game that I think most people could play, say with the dice from their Monopoly set or something like that. So you happy with that one?
I'm very happy with that one. That's Mary's
game, yes. And all right, so that's one of those ones. Now you can. I did design a version of this called Turn the Tile, and in that version, it's a big version. So in a school setting, they would have these big sheets that went on the floor, and children stand behind it, and 2 big dice get rolled, and then they work a team of 13 versus a team of 13. So that's a game called Turn the Tile. It's the same game really, but that's for a class sort of setting that would be there. So let's have a look at another idea just to take us on a little bit further and just to see how that goes. So we just played Mary's game. Now here's a game I like to play called Poison. Now, I'm going to give you the general version of the game. Now, bear in mind, we're going to change it a little bit. I happen to have Australian coins on there. You could put any coins from whichever part of the world. I appreciate that people are watching all over the place here, so we could have pence in there and all sorts of things there. So let me share the basic way that poison works. There's a poison number, essentially. So I'll explain to you what that might be. So in our case here, okay, I'm just going to move to this bigger dice here. We've just got those ones there and so forth. The poison number for this game is 6. All right, so, and at this point, normally can play with a whole class. A small group works well. So if you've got 3 or 4 children at home, they really love this game sitting here. So the poison number is 6. Now, the way I play this game is fairly simple. You get the first 2 rolls free. So, for example, if I rolled a 5, Heather, you've got 5 points right now. And anybody in the group has got 5 points. Then, say I rolled a 3, okay? 5 and 3 is 8. You're all on 8 points. However, at this point in time, you have a choice now, Heather. You can say, I'm resting, I'm banking those 8 points. All right? Now, that means you've got them in the bank. But you can keep rolling. We can keep rolling, okay? But once you've banked, you're out of the game for that set of turns. The rest of us could keep rolling and adding more and more score, okay? However, if the poison number comes up, we get wiped out. We go back to 0, okay? So I'll just take you through this a little bit here. I know that you're not gonna hold on 8 points, okay? But you can see some children take more or less risk than others that sit there. So we're all on 8 points. So imagine I roll again and I rolled a 1. Okay, we're on 9 points. And I'm going to, at this point in time, I'm going to sit down. So I've kept my 9 points. Imagine you're still standing.
I'll still go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm rolling. Oh, look at that. What a whoa, how fluky was that? Okay, so sorry, bad luck, Heather. I'm on 9 points and you're on 0. Because you just, but now we can then stand up again and then keep rolling. I'm going to start from 9 points, but you're starting from 0.
0.
Yeah, all right. And so, but yeah, that was just fluke, pure fluke that came up on 6 at that point. And so we roll. Now we might have a set total that we're aiming for 50 points or 100 points or whatever it is. But can you imagine a whole classroom of children? They're standing up and then start sitting down. The few that are left, you know, when this happens, the 6 comes on, there's a sense of glee that runs through it. Now that game's really just about adding some single digit numbers, but the dice sort of have that randomness about it to make it a bit more interesting. Yeah?
There's a bit of strategy as well. The children really have to think, am I going to risk it? Am I not going to? And you bring out some characters, I think.
Yeah. The sort of, and look, some children have various strategies. So like if a large number comes out, they sit immediately. Or after, say, 5 rolls, they think, oh, a 6 is going to come up soon. So there's different strategies that you might use. Now, I'm just going to take you back to the slides and just say how you can take a game. Once children understand a game like this, you can take a game and extend it a bit further. So you might notice, so I've got the pocket dice there, which once again you can make with the milk carton and stick the coins on the other side. So in Australian coins, we have a 5 cent and a 10 cent and so forth, right up to a $1 and a $2 coin. Now in the UK or other places, you'd have different coins obviously on the outside. But I have a poison coin. So if the poison coin happens to be the $1 gold coin, if that comes up, you bust, you go bankrupt. I call the game bankrupt, all right? But if you turn up, say, 10 cent or something of that nature, you just keep accumulating the money, all right? And once again, you can bank it and hold the money, okay? But if you risk it, you could go bankrupt, all right? So you see, you take the same game idea, and all I'm saying is the dice gave you the general idea. Something like a pocket dice or something we can, they're also write and wipe dice where you can write on like a little whiteboard sort of things. This gives you a bit more flexibility. That's really that idea. So that's just another little game that we might play. Okay, I'll give you another one. So it's a slight extension of that. This time we'll use 2 dice, okay? And I call this game, and I'll bring it up here, I call this game Avoiding 7. Okay, so now once again, same thing, I'll just put the dice here. I'll talk to you how to play it, but once you've played the game we've just played, this one will become quite obvious because this time we have 2 dice, but the idea is we want to avoid a total of 7. So a bit like we wanted to avoid the poison number, we want to avoid the total of 7. So I'll show you on the screen here. So for example, we could keep, so I really don't want to get 4 and 3. That's the last thing I want, that would be, right? So at this point here we might roll, and I've rolled 6. So once again, I might bank the 6 that we've got there. So this is a bit of a harder version of what we've just done, okay? So you happy for me to roll again? All right, so we're all right, there we go. All right, see how we go. And I rolled another 6. So at this point we're at 12. Right? But remember, should I roll a 7, bang, you know, we lost those same sort of things that sit there. Okay, so you ready to roll again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And well, another 6. So now that you're on 18 points, do you want to bank those ones, Heather, or
No, I'm going to go again.
Okay, all right, okay then, all right.
Feeling lucky.
Oh, and a 5. All right. So you're going to stay?
Last time I'm going to
stay.
stay.
Okay, all right.
Let's try.
Oh, 6. I thought it was going to come up 7. Oh, that just turned, it turned over 7. Right, but you've got the...
That's a magical dice.
Yeah, but you've got the notions here. So I'll just take you through this bit. So essentially, it's the same type of game. We just made it a little bit harder. That's all that's happened. We're now rolling 2 dice. Now, at this point here, you might see there's a bit of a grid on the slides there. If I wanted to, I could look at, well, so what's the chance of rolling a 7? Okay, and if you think about it, with 2 dice, there's quite a lot of opportunity. So, for example, if I roll, say, a 6 and a 1, that's 7. If I roll a 4 and a 3, that's 7. If I roll a 5 and a 2, that's 7, and vice versa. So there's lots of ways that you might get a 7. Whereas there's only one way you're going to get a 12, that's 6 and 6. So you see how this game's pretty similar to the Mary's game, but it takes the characteristics of the other game. And often I find sometimes, I don't know, have you ever played Monopoly at someone else's house?
The rules change.
There's always house rules. And sometimes even in these games, same sort of thing happens. So sometimes I just give children a couple of dice and they end up making their own game, which is pretty neat. They make their own fun. See, and I like, for want of a better word, the creative element there. See, mathematics can be creative. So you've got the tool called dice, and we've created our own game. I mean, somebody sat down and made Monopoly. So that was a creative sort of thing that would happen there. So that's just another example. And once you get used to sort of working with your dice, making your own and so forth, it gets the creative juices going a little bit. So let's take you happy how that game works? It's pretty obvious once you play.
Absolutely. I have a question though. Is it better for children to use dot dice or number dice, numeric number dice? Okay,
so we've got 2 different purposes. So the dot dice, just so you can see, I'll just bring it up so you can see pretty clearly here. I'll bring my giant one back in so you has what they call a subitizing pattern, a standard pattern that we would like children to be able to recognise. That would say, okay, so I recognise a standard pattern. However, I also don't want the children to become dot counters. I want them to see 4, not count 4. Okay? Yeah. So then what I might do is, as they get a bit older, I want to sort of change it up a little bit. I might change from a dot dice to a number dice. So you might have the numeral 6 instead of 6 dots and so forth. So it's just maybe a different time at school. Older children, for example, they don't necessarily need the dot. Not bad using them, but I might change it to a numeral dice. For example, typically your 10-sided dice have numerals 0 to 9 on them. But you can get them in dots, okay? You can also get, so that one's got the numerals on it. You can also get dice that have the words on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Yeah, so there's quite a variation in that sense. So essentially when you're playing a game, it's not that difficult to change it just by changing the dice. So I'll just take you through a couple of other games just so that people have got a little bit of a little repertoire that they might like to play at home and so forth. So we just played Avoiding 7. Okay. I should say here, look, we realise that some people may not have any dice or be still in lockdown in various places. So we've actually programmed a little dice simulator. If you want to whiz on our website, just go to the Probability Interactive Materials. You click a button and the dice will spin over, and they'll be 6-sided and 10-sided. So if someone hasn't got dice and they can't make the spinner, don't feel that you can't play these games. Okay? There's a really interesting little simulation there of showing you that 7 comes up a lot when you add 2 dice. So I just thought anyone who doesn't have access to some dice, or sometimes children think, oh, because it's on computer, it must be really good. So you can play it on your iPad or something like that. So I do like children rolling the dice, but it's not bad for them to see, particularly like what would happen if I rolled 1,000 times or something of that nature. So let's just take us into another game. And I wanted to just link the idea that dice can be focused on specific content that we want to do. Now, an earlier discussion that you and I have had was about place value. And so here's an example of a game that you could use to do place value. We're just going to stick with the 6-sided dice, but I'm just going to use my whiteboard. And all you need to do really is, in this case here, I've just ruled up 2 pretty basic columns. Okay, one's the 10s and one's the 1s. So when I roll the dice, it's going to go into a particular place. That's why we call it place value. And let me imagine, I'm going to rig this a little bit, Heather. So if I rolled a 2, I have a choice as to whether I'm going to go for 2 1s or 20. So if I put the 2 in this spot here, 2 10s, that means we've got 20. If I was to put it in the 1s place, it would be worth 2. Now, the aim of the game is I'm going to have 7 rolls. Each of us could have 7 rolls. We could do the same dice, doesn't really matter. Okay, so if you were playing, we're playing group against each other, we'd each rule up exactly what I've got there. I have 7 rolls, so if I roll again, I'll roll it again. I rolled a 6. How amazing is that? Okay, so that's that magic dice again. So at the end of the game, I want to have a total as close to 100 as I can. So I'm probably not going to put the 6 in this 10s place, because if I put the 6 here, I've already used up 80 and I've got 5 more rolls to go. So you start to see I'm getting in my head a bit of a strat. It's not just about the addition. It's not just about place value. It's now about, if I've used up 80, I'm going to bust. I've got to go in a different spot. So it's about what they call strategic or reasoning. So it's about the strategy or the strategic thinking, the reasoning. So let me give you an example. So I'll take you back down here. Probably with that 6, a good choice would be now to go here, and I'm at 26. If you want to keep a running total, you can. So I know I'm at 26 at this point here. Okay. If I roll again, we won't play the whole game because you'll get the idea how it works. I rolled a 1. Probably in this case here, I'm going to go for, I think I'll go 10, and that means progressively I'm now 36. So I'm going to roll one more time, and let's think about where we might put it in there. So 2. Now, I'm actually thinking here, I want to get pretty close to 100, and so I've got to get this going a bit closer, but maybe I need to go here. I think I'm 3-4 rolls in, so I'm going to make this choice. And I'm going to say I've got 2 10s or 20, and now I'm 56. So I've got 3 more rolls, and I'm nearly, I could get that sort of point there. So let me just take it a step further. So I'm going to roll again, or I rolled a 4. Now, that's actually pretty neat, because if I put the 4 here, I'm now 56 takes me to 60. I got 2 more shots to play here, so let's see how we go. 1, I think I'm going to put it here. Yeah, bit of a risky at this point, 70. So what number would I love to come up? Wow, wouldn't it be really great if all of a sudden a fluky, look at that, Heather, a 3 came up.
Number 3.
How amazing was that? And I got 100. But you could start to see here we've got the dice are generating the numbers. All right, so that's the The second is that happens a bit randomly. So I had a game plan and I might have to change it. That's the reasoning part that's happening here. So you see the strategic thinking, and I'm learning a bit about place value at the same time. So essentially, what I think that the neat part about this is really the thinking about how dice can generate, well, just so many different possibilities. If you really think about it today, we've actually only really used the 6-sided dot dice. We haven't had to really worry about the 10-sided one. Now we could change and use the 0 to 9 one. We could use the pocket dice, as I said before, but the maximum thing we had to use is 2 6-sided dice. That's amazing, isn't it?
That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. So all of these games available on your website for people to have a look at?
Yeah, well, look, most of them we've either explained. We can make when this goes up, people can download the PowerPoint that we've been looking at today, and so there's enough explanation there. And probably I've made a video clip somewhere. I've got bundles of various games that I put up, little dice games and card games and so forth. But I try and keep it nice and simple. And the other thing is, to be frank with you, I let children make little changes to the rules, a bit like we talked about changing the house rules for Monopoly, and they add these extra little ideas to it, which makes it their game. So a bit like I talked about Mary's game before, we named that after a child. She loved it. Let's play Mary's game. You know, we might have John's game or Murray's game or something like that.
Or anything. The other game that I love is that you have, it's more with a spinner, is your multi-spin game.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
It's like dice, it's spinners, dice, but we use that a lot. You know how you're saying the strategy. And so when we do it, we always block each other. So if we do 3 or we do 4, trying first to 3 or 4. So I think that's actually worth having a look at too if you've got a chance.
All right. Well, thanks, Heather. I hope that there was a few ideas for people that try with dice.